Hello, thank you so much for taking out time and joining us for this conversation in MSME Accelerator. It has been a privilege to be a part of this platform for such a long time. Pretty early times though, but still right from the beginning, it has been a privilege to be a part of this platform, and we have together grown to this level. Now the time, I believe, has come wherein we need to start looking at creating the value for the biggest stakeholder in India's economy, that is the mid and small size businesses. Believe me, almost one third of this country's GDP and a very large part of the workforce works in this particular market. However, this particular market is often neglected in the so-called show business when it comes to the either the economic part of it or when it comes to the typical focus around banking. We see a lot of things that are getting discussed for the large enterprises. We discussed technology companies getting listed, technology companies bringing in new solutions. We look at also a lot of companies bringing in IPO, the whole stock market trade, the international, the impact of international activities on the large enterprises. These are the things that are very widely discussed and have been reported very widely across different media. But one of the biggest stakeholders in the economy does not get its due, and that's the MSME sector. So this is a humble attempt on our part to bring in a specific focus on this sector and see how we'll be able to create value for this sector. So we are going to begin this conversation today with a very simple startup. And as any typical MSME entrepreneur would start, we always start with the fundamentals. So the conversation that we are going to have are going to be on three fundamental parameters today. First, when you look at any particular enterprise, how do you look at building a business plan? We would look at two sets of business plan. First, when you are creating an enterprise, how do you go about creating a plan? And secondly, when you are already running, what kind of a plan would help you in running that particular operation more efficiently? So these are the two specific conversations that we would have on the planning side. The next part is the biggest challenge that all of us face at the MSME, which is the working capital. This is when we have a lot of struggle around finances. How do we need to look at what do we need to build? What are the things that go right for us at the MSME level, and what are the things that go wrong? So, second part is going to be a complete focus on the financial part. And third, and equally critical thing today is also about the technology. We are going to discuss how does this particular sector can adopt technology. What are the right steps for them to look at the correct technology for their business, and how do we look at the right return on investment? So this is the three things that we have looked at. We have the access to the community and the chat box. Please feel free to ask any kind of questions that you have in the chat box, and we would attempt our level best to answer all of them. So with your permission, let me now start sharing the first part of it, which is about creating a business plan. Now, when you go to a corporate, a planning is a very elaborate exercise. There are people who are specialized on this particular part, there is a sector. There's a team within the finance who would conduct planning as an annual exercise, and they would reach out to different departments, discuss with them, try and build up plans for them, and then ultimately present those plans. But when it comes to MSME, everything is eventually coming down to the owner himself or the promoter. So let's look at how we'll be able to offer something very simple or a very fundamental plan to be created. So let me start by sharing a very fundamental template with you that can help you look at what kind of a business you should look at it, why you should get into that particular business, and how it will move. So the first thing is a very simple business plan that we would share. Just a small single page that would help you look at how we can build a very simple business plan. This is a simple one pager. Now, look at a very fundamental parameters that you can look at any business. Okay, what are the products that you want to manufacture? Right? Say that you have multiple lines that you have identified for yourself. These are the products that I'm going to build. Say product one could be one particular part, product two could be the other one that you are building. Then say that you want to get into say agribusiness. These are the three particular parts. I just prepared this as an example. A company which wants to look at some kind of equipment, they want to build it at a basic level, look at doing something, want to do one part of the business, some could be other part. So look at what is typically that you would be able to sell and what is the quantity that you expect to be sold for that particular part. And this will give you your revenue. Now, in each of this particular part, see how you will be able to come at your cost. Now, cost, look at different parameters. What could be your material cost? What could be your production cost? The parameters that you like say electricity, you may need air. So the cost of all those particular part, you can look at it. The maintenance that you would need, and any other kind of production expense, some outsourcing that you may need to do. Look at all this particular part and see what you get is typically your total cost of goods that you are selling. Then comes the cost of the sales staff. What is the cost for you to have this particular sales? What could be the advertising that you would be required to do? How much travel your people would do? And this will give an idea regarding what is the sales and marketing expense that you would incur. Once this is done, see what is the salary that you would need to pay to your staff. My belief is that if you want to really create a business for a longer run, it's important for you to create a specific amount as a remuneration for yourself as well, just to be absolutely sure that your business is producing adequate cash for you to keep your home running comfortably. So something you should take for yourself. Then all the other expenses like telephone, internet, the bank charges that you will need to pay, the repair and maintenance, all put this part and then see what are all your overheads. Then comes a part of depreciation. Any kind of assets that you would be buying, so that you bought a particular set of tools for say about 10 lakh rupees, and those set could be used for next 5 years. So you can assume that I'm going to consume, if you go with a simple method, 2 lakh rupees per year. So you distribute that cost in a particular way, or you decide how those tools are going to depreciate, and accordingly load that particular cost on those particular components, and then see what is our total cost. And all these expenses minus your sales price will give you what is actually your profit. So this is the fundamental step for you to look at how I'm going to build my particular business. A very simple one to begin with. This is a very important step for any entrepreneur to create your own business plan at the broader level before you start any kind of a business. The reason why it's critical to start at this level is because once you have all these things covered, you are very clear what are the expenses that I would need to incur over a period of time, and you are not missing out on any of the points. Are the points clear? Do you have any doubts at this point in time? If you have any doubts, you can ask him and I will be very happy to share. Samirji, I will definitely cater to the technology part of this business. Any part so far on this question till the time we are discussing the business plan part? Okay, so if these questions are clear, then now let's look at the second part of it. If you are very clear that you can run this business very successfully by looking at the basic documents, see how that your entire business with the quantity that you have looked at is going to be profitable. Then comes the question of looking at how it's going to get distributed over a period of time. And this is where when we go to the second part, which is building a plan for the complete year. Now let's see how we'll be able to build this plan for a year. In this case, what you need is a month-on-month plan. And how does this happen? This happens by you looking at a little more elaborate workings. Let me show you how it works. Herein, when you are already running an operation and the operation is running successfully, and now you're looking at building a plan for a year or any particular period. You can look at any year that you'll be comfortable with, starting with, say, April 24, if you're creating it for the next financial year. You look at how many products or services you're offering. What is the material cost? Because each of the product may need different material, and accordingly, the material cost for those particular products or services will be different. Look at those particular costs, and then rest of the cost we can actually go and add on the overall working. Okay, so particularly any specific cost that is related to a particular manpower can be assigned to the same particular product. The overall administrative cost, the office cost, the interest component, your loan repayment, any kind of the partner membership, this get distributed across all the product lines. So you can keep all of them together. And this cost, you can then go and distribute over a complete year. What that would give you is that it would tell you that any particular point in time, based on how your revenue is flowing, what is the net profit that you would have. This is very important to plan when it comes to particularly the cyclic businesses. What happens in certain cases is you have some businesses wherein there are sales in certain months, there are not so great sales in other months. Typically, say that agri commodities, or for that matter, even things like even gold, particularly have very high cycle, very high sales value in particular festival season. The other part is on the lower side. Also goes with the businesses like clothing, wherein typically the festive seasons go for a very high amount of sale, whereas the other seasons it typically goes low. In all these kind of businesses, where we have a very cyclic nature of operations, it is very important for you to plan your business across the year, and this gives you a very in-depth understanding of what is the amount that I will need, what is the cash flow I need throughout my year. Are these two planning templates clear? Do we have any questions at this point in time? The two fundamental challenges that the MSMEs face in their growth is, the first part is that when they need to look at the planning at the level, at the elaborate level that they need to do, sometimes a lot of things happen in enthusiasm. When you look at a large business which is already established, that particular business takes up a thing in a very different way. And they have all the plans prepared. They probably would hire some consultants to prepare those plans for them. And based on all those particular plans, they will take their business forward. Whereas what happens in case of any mid-sized business or any small businesses, typically this business would start working right there. The promoter himself or herself would start looking at the business. So they may not be looking at the very feasibility of the business in its totality. That is why I would recommend that when you are starting a business, they should ideally start the business at this level, wherein we are talking about creating a very fundamental feasibility of how the business will run. And once the feasibility is established, at least at the overall profitability level, then taking it to a month-on-month level to ensure that we have the successful cash flow that we plan. And as we start talking about the cash flow, I think this is the perfect time for me also to bring in Amla here. And I would like to understand from Amla now. Amla, when we start talking about the MSMEs and how they work, it's very important for any individual, before they plan, they also look at their own financial planning, right? So how would you guide them on building or rather preparing for starting a business?
Absolutely, Charu, that is absolutely correct. First of all, thank you, and it's my pleasure to be here with you all. Charu, yes, as you said, it is very, very important to consider your personal finances before getting into the business. So you should actually start with considering the viability or how long you can sustain. In the initial stages of business, there will be no revenue generation as such, but your day-to-day expenses are going to remain the same, or they would rather grow because of the rising costs. So ideally, you should have a separate corpus to manage your personal expenses for at least 6 months to 12 months or even more, I can say. Now, how can you estimate how much amount of money you need to have? You can list down your every small expenses, fixed expenses like day-to-day expenses, your monthly expenses, plus annual expenses like your children's fees, or if you are planning for any annual vacations, then you should list down all those expenses. And in addition to that, you should also be ready with some emergency funds. So you can manage your expenses without getting loaded. You should be able to manage all these expenses without getting loaded with additional burden. It is very crucial that you should never rely on a single source of income. If any other family member like your spouse is earning, then that is well and good. That is a plus. But it is always advisable to have your personal investments that can take care of your short-term goals, like your day-to-day expenses in this case, and your mid-term goals and also long-term goals. So if you keep a decent amount in a good hybrid fund, mutual fund, and start with an SWP, it will give you a monthly inflow of cash, and plus there will be an eventual growth in your fund as well. Now the personal finances, it is very important. Your personal finances should never be mixed with your business related finances. They should be kept separate. And it can be a one-way traffic from your business. You can get funds into your personal finances, but it should never be the other way around. So the finances are to be planned separately, your business finances and your personal finances. If you try to mix up these liabilities, then it can actually cause a total chaos. And that's why we have seen that many small scale business or any business for that matter, they're not able to succeed because there is a mix up in the personal finances and the business related finances. So if there is a mix up, it will create chaos, and in turn it will adversely affect your business as well. The businesses do not succeed just because of this issue many a times. So to summarize, I can say you have to keep three things in mind. You need to consider the viability and be ready with the funds that can manage your personal expenses for some time period. Then you should have multiple sources of income, and your personal finances and your business finances should never get mixed up. Thank you.
Right. That's a very critical point here, Ankit. Sorry, here, Amla, because I wanted to bring this thing here that when you look at the two challenges for why people don't really get into MSMEs and why they fail, the fundamental challenge that you would see is around finance. Now, this finance is at two levels. First, a lot of people don't even start the MSMEs because they don't really have the adequate fund. And secondly, the people who come in, a lot of them actually tend to exit because somewhere their personal expectations in terms of their finance and the overall the revenue that they're able to generate from the business in a shorter run does not match. And that's why, in spite of having a very good potential in the business that they're running, they typically tend to go out. So these are the two primary reasons I would like to list here. Now, when it comes to the MSME registration part, the question here is, I think you should go for MSME registration. There is no question around it, because once you are registered as an MSME, the large enterprises need to pay you in 45 days. Whether you want to enforce that particular thing or not, usually if you are simply registered, a lot of them tend to pay you in 45 days anyway. Plus, currently there are almost about 45 different sectors which are identified by government for promoting various schemes. These are all listed on champions.gov.in. So these all are applicable only to the companies who are registered in the MSME. So it's very important for you to get yourself registered in MSME. That is very important. I'll get into the tech bit here. Okay, cost effectiveness. I'll come to the cost effectiveness in the very next slide, because this is the next slide that I want to discuss. Is something that's also my book is all about. Is a framework I called ASCOR. Now, this is what I have seen happening, particularly post COVID. What happened is when we had the lockdown, before then everybody was very comfortable about doing something called as a rotation. Okay, so in MSME, the entire whole thing was working on a part that paisa rotate ho raha hai. Yahan se aa raha hai, yahan se ja raha hai, yahan. But kitna rotate ho raha hai? Nobody really bothered about looking at कि मैं इतना rotate कर रहा हूँ, सही में मेरे business के लिए चाहिए या नहीं चाहिए. People simply kept on rotating the money. And that was going fine because there was an outflow, there was an inflow, and people were somehow balancing, making some money in between. But the moment there was a stop, they had no answer. And if you really look at how many companies failed to survive the whole impact of COVID-19, you would realize that a lot of them were the companies who were very highly dependent on the cash flow. These are the companies who were actually using the money or the means way beyond what was required for them. And this made me think as to, is there a way for us to start looking at what is the right quantum of business, what is the right kind of finance required in my business. Okay, and this led to a framework called ASCOR. So let me share that framework with you. First thing, this particular part, so this is a typical way of when you look at any particular finance and you want to understand what is the working capital that is needed. We have this standard part, your current assets and current liabilities. The difference is the working capital in this particular part. But I was not very comfortable with this standard part. So I started looking at something very simple if I can build something like this. Okay. So I looked at this particular part. Who are your top clients? Typically 80-20 goes in most of the businesses. So your 80% of the business will typically come from some of your top clients. So write down what is the typical billing that you do for all these customers. Okay. And when do you get their payment? So if you're paying upfront, like say if you're into trading business, the money will come upfront. If you're into a different set of business, the money will not come upfront, but there will be a credit period. So write down what is the payment term that you have agreed. And when do you actually get the payment? So if somebody tells you that they will get you the payment, give you the payment in 30 days, but do they give you or they basically stretch it? And accordingly, you can identify what is the money that you will get in a typical month. Then you look at who are your top vendors and what's your agreement with them. So because the client pays you in 45 days, do you also go back and pay them in 45 days or you actually end up paying them in 30 days? This particular thing will tell you where your money is getting stuck. Now, look at how much time you would need to convert the raw material which is received in your plant into a finished good and then sell it. Then write down all your monthly cost. Okay, what is your salary? What is your electricity? If you have some contractors, rent, utility bills, put everything. And this will tell you what is the money that you are getting in a month, how much you need to pay, what are your fixed costs, and then that will tell you what is the ideal working capital that you need in your business. And then there will be some capital which will come in this particular way. And believe me, you would realize that most of the businesses would have at least double the working capital that they need compared to what they already have. Because we always wanted that rotation. As long as we were selling, somebody was paying, we were paying somebody, we were just rotating the money. Very comfortable. So for the first time, you need to now go and see where it stands. And then comes the second part. So this is what are the sources of working capital in your business. Okay. काफी बार हम तो जितना client से पैसा आएगा बाद में vendor को जाएगा. So we are basically actually running the whole business based on vendors money. काफी लोग खुशी से बोलते हैं. I happened to meet a client who had told me that हमारा तो कुछ भी नहीं है, सारा पैसा इधर से लिया, सारा पैसा उधर से दे दिया. कभी-कभी तो उसको 3 महीने दे देते, 4 महीना दे देते. No, if you are not paying somebody for 3 or 4 months, do you believe that he is really going to give you the right cost? Will you not factor the fact that you are going to pay him 4 months late? और वो 4 महीने का हिसाब जोड़ के आपको रेट देगा. Right? So when you said you are actually enjoying the credit from vendors, you may not be getting the price getting the raw material at the right price. So you need to look at that. Bank limit आप कितनी use करो, that's the standard. The other bit which comes to that, मेरा अपना पैसा लगा हुआ है. कितना पैसा लगा हुआ है? 50 लाख लगा हुआ है, 1 करोड़ लगा हुआ है. Whatever the amount that you have. Plus, there is a short-term borrowing which you get it from here and there. And the beautiful part that a lot of businesses are very happy to take is unsecured. 2%, 3%. वो 2-3% का साल भर में 40% जाता है. वो 40% गया तो आपका प्रॉफिट कितना बचा? Nobody gets into that. So let's write down. And now I want you to look at this same thing in a different way. Abhi iska cost kitna hai? Okay. So if you come here and say that you vendor from payable, nahi to kya usko mujhe kuch nahi dena hai. I don't need to pay him anything. But does he mean that he's actually giving you without any interest? He's buying the material from somebody else, right? तो उसको तो interest देना है. So will you not charge that interest to you? The bank will give it to you at some particular amount, right? So if the bank is giving to you at 10% after taking all the securities from you, taking your home as a mortgage and all, so your own contribution, should it come free of cost? Or should you basically be getting at least the double of what you are paying to the bank? If you take this particular part, then you start looking at what is the total cost of your working capital. And only when you do that, then you start working on how you will be able to lower that. Very simple bit. Clear all your inventory. How much material that you, how many of that you really need. If it is excess, just sell it off. Right? If it is not there, then see what you can do with it. But keep it to the absolute minimum. If you have got extra equipment, see if you can put them on rent or if you can sell them. If there are resources who are not currently deployable, put them onto some particular part, but get your cost right. And only when you are able to do that, then you will be able to come to a part when you will be able to restructure. Once you start doing this particular part, then you would be able to see how much I need to work. There are some people who say, हम तो vendor को पैसा देते हैं, client हमको 30 दिन बाद देते हैं. अगर client आपको 30 दिन बाद दे रहा है, तो you also need to work with your vendor and offering it at 30 days. Similarly, your collections should happen right on time. Get your unsecured to the lowermost part. Reduce your short-term borrowing. Use your bank limit very, very carefully, and your contribution should be able to generate that value. Even if you give it to Amla can comfortably give you 10% plus, even by keeping in some basic part. So why would you go and then offer it and keep that thing in the business without even putting any cost to it? Doesn't make any sense, right? That's when it is important for you to look at what you need to work on. And then you can pull all of this into your monthly plan and see how much profitable you are. I hope you will be able to make a sense of this particular template. At this point in time, when we start looking at the working capital, see how we'll be able to optimize, how do we need to manage finance. Kamla, I would like to understand from you, when a business is running and we have a situation wherein at one point in time there is some kind of excess cash that we are generating and we would not like to say invest at one point in time. What are the options available for organizations to use that particular part and create some kind of a security for them?
Yes, Charu. So once the business starts growing and you have some additional funds to manage, then you should think about corpus building, growing your funds from other sources. So just like your personal finance planning, here also you can think about having multiple sources of income, and that will help you in your corpus building. When you keep your funds in banks, as you said already, that the interest rate that you get, or FDs, the interest rate, it is slightly better than the bank account rates. But do we really earn from those? Not really. So we have many other options available which can provide a better rate of interest as well as good liquidity as well. So we can plan for liquid funds which can provide you proper liquidity, and some portion can go into midterm as well as long term objectives, and there you can think about some other funds. So you can diversify your funds and get proper returns from them. So a good financial advisor can help you with diversifying your corpus and having it grown. It is also important to get debt free as early as possible. So when you are saying that there is some amount that has to be repaid, then whenever you have some additional funds, you can use a portion of that to repay some portion of your liabilities or loans as well.
Sure. So this point in time, I would also like to now understand how critical it is for any organization to mitigate their risk.
Sorry, can you come again?
What would be at this point in time, what are the things the organization can do to mitigate its risk?
Yes. So, employee retention is a very important thing for any of organizations. So if you have got a good talent, you have to retain that talent and utilize it. So from employee retention point of view, a good or healthy work environment is the most important thing. But apart from that, other options like loyalty benefits, or you can always also think about some investment options like group SIPs, or insurance options like group insurance, health insurance, that the company can provide, and it will definitely build a good faith within the employees.
Sure. I have also seen one particular thing which is very often neglected in the mid-sized business, maybe because of lack of knowledge or something, is about insurance. I have seen a particular instance when one of my clients, the manager actually failed to update the insurance limit based on the excess work that they were. So they had got very additional traction that particular year, and their inventory levels had doubled. But the manager failed to get the security for the complete inventory level, and then they had a fire, and almost 80% of the inventory was gone. And because the overall cover itself was on the lower side, the company had to bear all the loss, and the company was never able to come out of it. So, have you basically, what would you guide people on securing themselves on these nights?
So there are always unforeseen events that can occur. So no business can be totally insulated, we can say, about these unforeseen or unfortunate events. But there are many insurance options that are available for businesses as well as on personal side. So we have to look at personal insurance, like health insurance, term insurance has to be there for everyone. There are personal accident insurance available, and from business point of view, there are other insurance types, like fire insurance is mandatory. Then there is directors liability insurance. Marine insurance covers the any damages to the goods while they are in transit. Many a times what happens is a typical human tendency is to go for whatever is mandatory. We do not opt whatever is not mandatory. Say for example, if you have a car insurance, your car is insured, and in worst scenarios the car can be replaced. But do we really care about the person who is driving the car? We can actually get that person insured. So the person cannot be replaced, but at least we can ensure that the person or his family can get some monetary compensation in case of some unfortunate event. Or from fire insurance side, I can give you an example where a fire occurs in a factory, and there is a major damage to their plant and machinery. So those are their assets, they are getting damaged. So the uh, compensation will be paid to the business, but there will be a time loss where the actual machinery can be get reinstalled. There will be a time loss, and there will be a loss of production as well, right? So there is an option to get those things reimbursed as well. So nowadays, even cyber security insurance options are also available. So there are a vast variety of options that are available. So definitely, we would not like to spend from our pockets. Unforeseen events will be occurring, and nobody is going to predict those. But when there are so many options available, where by paying a small amount of premium, you can get a huge cover of risk, then you should always take into account whatever applies for your business and go for that insurance.
Sure. the two questions which are there on the tech bit. So let me start by looking at the first thing as to what is the why the MSME should go for a tech. Okay, the fundamental reason why MSME should go for a tech is because tech fundamentally eliminates the thing that differentiates the large enterprises from the small enterprises, and that fundamental thing is the reach. I think one of the very reason why MSMEs fail to go to the next level is also in terms of what is the reach that they have. And technology actually eliminates this entire differentiator at all. Let me elaborate on this particular point. If you are working in a situation wherein you are using, say, LinkedIn, social media very effectively, and you are using something as rudimentary as an email, okay, to use. Now imagine for a lot of MSMEs, the question was that if I have got a failed sales guy, he will go to reach out to certain customers, go meet them personally and make a sale. Now with the new particular bit, now people have realized that even if somebody is sending me the right set of information, as long as it is relevant to my requirement and it's what I need, I'll go into it and see if I can work with that pattern. So you can start by doing very, very simple things like reaching out to the right set of clients on LinkedIn, finding out who are the people who are very similar to your existing client list, and reach out to them on LinkedIn, send them emails, see how you can reach out to them. Now you can go and set up the online meetings with them. So it's not required that somebody has to be very good to go and set up this particular part. There can be somebody operating from office who can go and set up a meeting. The promoter herself or himself can reach out on an online platform, have a conversation with the client. If you feel it's right, then there can be somebody who can be involved on the operational level at the field to get the job done. So you need technology in your business fundamentally to get you going. That is one. The second thing that you need in technology in your business today is for you to make all those dynamic decisions. Now, large enterprises have some kind of infrastructure data points which they are already capturing. And based on those data points, they are making some decisions. And all these decisions are very, very dynamic in nature. Now, they have the infrastructure and the setup and the people with the right mindset to make those decisions and make them happen. Now, as an MSME, you are forced to adapt to those changes. You are not dictating those changes. Somebody else is dictating for you. So if you are not ready, then you would always struggle. And how you can be ready to all those changes? You can be ready for all those changes only when you have the right set of information available with you to assess the impact of those changes and make the corrective action. So it's very important for any business today to have the data for them to make informed decisions. That is one. Second thing, it's must for them to get the talent. Amla just spoke about getting the people involved, getting the people using things like the various investment options or creating a purpose for them. But even for people to go to that particular level, they have to first get into your organization and be there. For that also you need a presence. You need a digital presence for people to see that, okay, the organization exists, has some tech space, has got at least some good things to talk about so that I can go and join. That is one. Once they join, they need to have a very basic system, at least automated system for them to see the information and make those decisions. The intuition-based decisions that we have spoken about so far, that period is changing. And for that, you need data. And this data can be generated only by having tech. So it's very important for you to have tech and to capture the right set of data for you to make informed decisions. This is very, very important for you to survive in the changing economy, or if I want to use the standard term, a VUCA world, right? Because things around you are uncertain. So the only way that you would be able to do is by having a technology. So this is a very interesting question here in terms of how do we look at using innovation and the cost effectiveness. Now, this is where I very strongly believe that we as Indians are amazingly good. Okay, we are very good at, well, the other may term is a jugaad, but we are able to look at getting the maximum output out of a very simple thing. And that's what we have been doing. So the cost effectiveness thing is something that comes by default to us. The years of the challenges that we have gone through for last centuries have made us a bit frugal. And that is a very good thing when it comes to innovation. So how you can do that? Now, the first thing that you can do that is by accepting that we need to change. The fundamental thing that I see in MSME, which is the challenge to innovation, is the ability of a lot of people to accept that we need to change. The moment this particular thing happens, the first bit is accepting that we need to change. The second part is working with all the people who are all the stakeholders in your enterprise for that change to happen. Let me give you an example. This was way back in my working days when I used to run a shop floor 20 years back. Now, when you run a shop floor, the person who is the machine operator knows how that machine operates the best. Okay, your service technician would know how your product works better compared to your design engineer because he's the one who is actually servicing it. So if there are certain things which are going right, wrong, or how the customer is able to use it, or what are the challenges that they are facing, that particular individual would know well. So if you want to have some changes, it is very important for you to get that service engineer and your design engineer in your room and tell them, what are the problems that you are facing. Now talk to the design guy and ask him how you can change. So once you accept, you are able to bring in different people within your own setup together for that change to happen. The standard concept of cross-functional teams and all that we talk about the large enterprises does not really happen in a small business in a structured way. So if you want to be very, very effective, then you can do these two things. Let them accept the change, get your people together to start making them change. And that is when the innovation or the changes will start happening right at your product level, right at the bottom. And when it comes to the technology part of how we can make the changes in technology or how we can deploy right technology in your business, I have defined something called as a rigid framework. So let me walk you through that particular framework and then you would realize how we can do that. So here is the framework. The fundamental thing that you need to do when you want to identify these challenges is to define your process. So this is a 5-stage process, right? First thing is that across all your departments, write down what are your processes. Okay, it could be preparation of your MIS, how your sales happen, how do you plan for your material, how do you procure, define how many people are working on that part, how much time do they invest, and what is the cost of that particular thing. At least go with the salary multiplied by the work. Okay? Then what are the challenges that you are facing here? And what could be the impact? Okay. In terms of sale, let me give you a very simple example. Last week, I was with a company who participates in 5 major exhibitions in a year. So when you go and ask them as to what was output of those exhibitions, who individual Excel sheets. Okay. So if you go into exhibition, large exhibition, you end up spending about 30 odd lakhs in those particular exhibitions. You need to know what is it that I got out of it. Okay. How many clients I have made, what was their requirement, what was the follow-up. And in this particular company, they also used to give free samples to the client for trials. So how many samples you are saying, what has happened to that part, all this is the cost to you, right? Measuring that effectiveness. So you don't even know if you have let go of some potential lead. Somebody has followed up, but you are busy with the other clients, so you did not follow it up with them. There is no tracking. Right? So that's the first thing that you need in sales. You also need to see how many clients that you are dealing with, how you are dealing with them, what you can do. Right? Define everything. And once you do that, then you can identify that this is my biggest challenge. In my operations, say in my production, I'm losing say my wastage percentage is about 20%, whereas the industry standard is about 10%. So I'm wasting 10% extra. Now the impact of that particular part is that if you're wasting 10%, which means that you will need to run plan 10% more for you to get the same output. Now the financial impact can be I keep on losing this particular material, and the strategic impact will be somebody, they know that their processes are not correct. Because they end up losing a lot of material, they will come and charge me more. And that's why some of the clients will typically tend to go for from a larger or a more established place. This is a part. So you write down what are the top challenges that you are facing and then rate them. So that this is my challenge number 1, this is challenge number 2, this is challenge number 3. And once you have identified those top 3 challenges, then see how you can address them. What could be the various solutions? Can I do these things manually, or would I need a solution part only? So define all this particular part, what you need, what we have to do. And once this is done, that you know that these are the challenges, this is how I have to address, then identify which is the right system that can help me address those challenges. Okay, let me repeat this. So you are not going to buy a system just for the sake of it. You are going to look at what is your business, what are the processes, what are the challenges in your business at this point in time, and what may come. And based on that part, you are going to look at which is the system that will help you address those challenges today and maybe tomorrow. That is the system that you need to go and implement. You have a very clear idea regarding this is my challenge, this is how I'm going to address it. These are the different solutions that can help me address those particular part. And not every solution is going to address all your problems, right? So then look at what is the best fit. Say some solution may hit about 70%, some may go to about 80%, some may go to around 90%, but nothing will fit your requirement 100%. Because there will be some specific things that you do in your business. So look at what is the best possible solution for your business and then get to this particular part. And very important is that remember that this whole calculation needs to then balance with your business impact and your tool cost. And this is what actually leads to the impact. So you know that this was my challenge. This is how I was going to address. This is the solution that I implemented for that part. Currently, my loss percentage is 20%. My expected outcome is say 10% loss. I actually ended up hitting 11%. So which means that I'm saving 9% per month. So based on that 9% per month, if you are producing a material worth say about 1 crore, you are saving 9 lakhs per month. So if this is the way it's going to continue, your investment of say around 1 crore or 2 crore, whatever that you're investing in the large enterprise system, can be recovered in a very short span of time. So this is what will give you what is the right solution for you to implement a system in your business. Is the part clear here? Do you now believe that this is how you can use technology for part? Any doubts at this point in time? Does this answer your queries on how technology can be deployed in system? Let me give you some very specific examples that could help you see how MSMEs can transform them. And I'll give you these particular things across 3 multiple enterprise systems so that you know. Probably the biggest ERP, or rather the most popular system that is used in mid-sized business or in the small business is Tally. Okay. Now, for years together, Tally was fundamentally used as an accounting system. So people are very comfortable making purchase sales entries in Tally and keeping the basic thing, and the inventory is the one value that you put in at the end of the year for you to prepare your balance sheet and your final statutory reporting, or maybe one reporting to your banks. But beyond that, we don't really use the power of Tally. So I'll give you an example wherein I was able to work with a client, wherein we have customized the right from quotation generation to creation of bill of material, booking the consumption in the even the material planning, after material planning, doing all the entries in the system, then booking the consumption in the system for you to get the real-time inventory of the product that they have, and subsequently also taken them to a costing level wherein we are assigning all the costs related to a particular project in Tally itself on that particular project code that we have created. And then at the end of every month, we know what is the particular profitability in that particular project, and at the end of the month, the entire profitability across the organization. So even it's not about the system, it's about you deciding that I need particular points to be captured and then working to ensure that you are able to capture all these points in the system. That is one. The second part is that now you also have the possibility of looking at multiple specific systems. Now, for example, Tally is the one name I took, but when you look at the other tools, there are lots of tools which are specific to an industry. For a construction industry, assume that there are at least around 10 tools that I have evaluated who are very, very specific to construction industry. So if you are into architecture or if you are into construction and you just need those specific tools, you can use those tools. Now you also have a lot of open source tools which you can go and use in, say, other related contracts, say tier 1 or tier 2 industries. And they are equally good. Beyond that, even at the enterprise level, you have a lot of options of selecting the right system today. So if you're a business which has grown, then you have something like Zoho, or if you go further and say SAP B1, multiple tools which exist for you to look at it. QuickBooks, unfortunately, not much, but a lot of other tools. And even beyond this, I can tell you that there will be at least 20 good tools which are sizably deployed across the country for them to grow. It's important for you to pick up which is meeting most of your requirement and go and deploy that particular solution. That is the only way you will be able to get returns on your investments in tech. Is this particular part clear? Any queries here? Shreya, coming to the point of technology trends. The technology trends in mid-ends, the mid-size and small-size businesses typically are going on two different tracks. One is the innovation, internal innovation, which is on, say, it's a manufacturing or service industry, which is primarily the way we are able to jump the curve in industry, 4.0 or 5.0 delay. I don't want to get to the terms, but we have a lot of innovation which is happening on the shop floor, a very practical innovation on doing a lot of automation of the activities. Okay, things like the basic PLC controls, how the company will be able to bring in. So a lot of developments are happening at this level. Smaller tools are being deployed in all these organizations for them to automate their business process. That's on the internal side. A lot of even the repetitive tasks are also getting automated with things like RPA and all. So that's happening on one side. The largest story that I see, which is working out well on the MSME side, is also about the reaching out. I think a lot of platform, a lot of mid-sized companies have started using different platforms. They have started engaging digital marketing agencies. They have started engaging various set of people for them to reach out to multiple geographies and locations. So that constraint of having a physical sales guy go to reach particular part has now gone, and they are using the people on the performance marketers on LinkedIn and all to reach out to a larger set of audience and give them the right set of connects that they would need. So there are a lot of companies that you would see exist today, which will give you a commitment that over this particular period, we'll be able to give you about 20 meetings or 25 meetings or 30 minutes. This is what has been happening. And we have seen it on the other side, on the tech side. On the other side, on the financial side, Amla, do you see any specific trends that you are seeing onto the financial industries, how MSMEs are currently working with tools like mutual funds or insurance? Do you see a different engagement with them compared to how companies were working with you before?
Yes, Charu, absolutely. The mindset is slowly changing now, because typical mentality was to invest in bank accounts or FDs. Now that mentality has changed, is gradually changing. It, I cannot say that it is changed, but it is gradually changing, and we are also helping our clients with their diversification of their portfolios. There are multiple options available as such, but sometimes people are not aware. Sometimes they really hesitate to get into some new things. But we are helping, and there is a change now. The change is now happening.
Great. That's a very positive sign in terms of how companies have started looking at new age operations as well. I also see a very substantial change in terms of companies being open to innovation in terms of their own product or own solutions part also. Let me give you a very small example. Now we have a lot of trend which is going on the electric vehicles. So the moment we talk about electric vehicles, the entire engine is gone. So people or the entire ecosystem of engine manufacturers is now under threat. But now that creates an opening for the motor manufacturing. Okay, so people are now looking at, if I have a whole setup, which is a precision manufacturing setup, how I can use my existing setup to do something more. Okay, so some of the innovations have come, right? Some of the companies have already started preparing on how they can proactively be prepared for the changes that are happening in market. Is there any other way for them to see create any other value in for the different industry. Like say we have the opportunity to go into defense because these people are used to manufacturing at a large scale with the precision. So is there an opportunity for them to reach out to defense or to any other sectors or specific things in the engineering sector is also a lot of these companies are currently exploring. So that's one thing. What I'm also going to do right now is that I'm going to share the templates, all the templates that I've shown here. I'm going to share them with you in the chat. It's a drive. You'll be able to go to this particular part and you'll be able to access the templates that we have. And at any point in time, if you have got any queries, you can reach out to us and you can tell us that this is the other queries that we have. And me or Allah will be very happy to answer all those queries here. So, any other questions for us here? I'm not seeing a question in the chat right now. So I assume that you can put all those questions here in the text and we can go and subsequently answer them. Tomorrow, we are going to have 3 special guests joining us. 3 of my good friends who have a very distinct personalities and a different level of expertise as well. Anuradha, the psychologist and a mindfulness coach, she is the one who has been helping multiple entrepreneurs being aware of the opportunities that are coming their way, being more mindful about how the things are happening. We have young Soumitra, who is a clarity coach. She works with companies on saying how do they look at the right opportunities in the market, size those opportunities, and work to grab those opportunities fast. And then we have amazing Almas, one of the world's few certified world-class speaking coaches, who is going to discuss a very critical aspect for all the entrepreneurs, and that's is to present themselves. It is not just important to make the right product and provide it to the end customer. It is also important for you to make yourself right. And Almas is the one who helps you do that. So with this comments, I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. And I'm closing the session for the day. I'll be very happy to answer all your queries that are being shared in the platform. And I look forward to building this interaction going forward. Thank you. Thank you, Amla, for your time.
Thank you so much.
For joining us.